Okay, hi guys. So today we are going to look at CSS styling images, and we are going to look at different properties. We are going to begin with border radius property, and it helps us to create rounded images. Create a style images.html and a CSS file for that. Then inside our body element, we're going to have header 3. We are just going to give it styling images, and a paragraph. We're going to call it rounded image. And in our images, we are going to have an image source. And in this image source, we are going to have our image from our images folder, from our day6 from our folder, and then images, and we're going to have this picture of paris.jpg and alt Paris. I'm going to have a height. I'm going to have a height and a width. A height, we're going to have a width of 300 and a width of 300 and a height of 300. Then we're going to our style.css file, and we're going to write our image, open and close curly braces. We are going to write border is 1 pixel, border radius. We're going to give it a border radius of 8 pixels. And you can see that our image has some curved border radius. We are going to copy paste the same image so that we can have 2 images here. And we're going to give it an ID. We're going to give it an ID. We have one with ID. We're going to have an ID square and an ID round. And now in our second image, which has an ID round, we are going to give it a border radius of 50%. When we put a border radius of 50%, our image becomes a circle. The next thing we are going to look at is thumbnail images. Thumbnail images, we are just going to change the ID. We are going to give this thumb1, and in our style.css file, we are going to style it. We use our hashtag to represent our ID. So we have hash thumb1, and we write border. We'll have border that is 1 pixel solid, hash D, then a border radius of 4 pixels, border radius of 4 pixels. I'm going to have padding 5 pixels and a width of 150 pixels. The next one, we are going to have thumb2, and in our thumb2, we are going to have 1 pixel solid with the same color, hash D, with a border radius of 4 pixels, a padding of 5 pixels, and a width of 150 pixels. But this one we are going to have, we are going to say when it is on hover state, let it have a box shadow of 0, 0, and 2 pixels, and RGBA, which is red, green, blue, and alpha colors, and 0, we have 0, 140, 186, and 0.5 for our alpha. You can see when we hover, it has this border box shadow, which has a color bluish. The next thing we are going to look at is what we call responsive images. Responsive images will automatically adjust to fit the size of the screen. So For this one to be effective, you're going to resize the browser window to see the effect. We are going to attach this image in our HTML file. In our HTML file, we are going to have these. Let's comment on all these other images and insert this image in our images. We'll insert this image and let's style it. We go to our style.css file and we'll say image. We give it a maximum width of 100% and a height of auto. Okay. Now, when we resize our image, you can see that now our image is responsive with different types of screen size that we have. The next thing we are going to do is how to center an image using CSS. In our HTML file, we are going to use one of these images, so just copy and paste it here. Then we go to style.css and we'll say this image will have it display will be block, and then we give it a margin left, that is auto, give it a margin left auto, margin right auto, and then we give it a width of 50%. Margin of 50%. When that is done, you'll see that now our image has been centered. Okay, it's come to the center of our browser. The next thing we are going to look at is what we call Polaroid images or cards. How can we have cards in our browser? We're going to add one more image in our HTML file. So go ahead and insert these two images. Insert these two images. Then go back to style.css. We're going to give our body a margin of 25 pixels. Then our div, we called our div Polaroid, so we are going to give it a width of 80% and background color white. Then we are going to give it a box shadow of 0 and 4 pixels. Going to give it box shadow of 0, 4 pixels, 8 pixels, RGBA. We are going to style our div container. We are going to text align our container, which has our text. So we are going to say text align to the center, and then padding 10 pixels and 20 pixels. In our div Polaroid, we are going to add a margin bottom of 25 pixels so that we separate our two images. And now when we resize our window, you can see that our cards are resizing accordingly. The next thing we are going to look at is what is called image hover overlay. And we're going to have an image of an avatar here. We're going to have an avatar. And just a simple text, we're going to write a div with a class text and we call it hello. We say hello world. Then let's go to our CSS and style it. So we'll begin with our period, then container, open and close curly braces. We'll say position, relative, then a width of 50%. Then we are now going to our image class and we say display block, with a width of 100%, and we are going to give it a height of auto. Then our overlay class, we are going to say position absolute. We are going to have top 0, bottom 0, left 0. We give it a right of 0 and a height of 100 and a width of 100%. Then we give it a opacity of 0. Then we're going to say transition to 0.5 seconds is, and we give it a background color of #008 CBA. Now we are saying on hover, our container, when it is on hover state and in our overlay class, open and close curly braces, we are going to give it an opacity of 1, and then our text class, we are going to call our text class to style our text class. So period text, to give it color white, font size 20 pixels, and then position absolute. Then we want it to come from top, so we have top 50%, left 50%, and then transform. We're going to translate it into brackets -50% and -50%. Then we have MS, transform and translate -50 and -50%. When we slide this overlay, we want it to slide from the top. We want our overlay to slide from the top. We are going to use the same image that we've been having, but now we are going to change our class overlay, and we're going to have still position absolute, and then bottom we are going to give it 100%. Left will be 0, right 0, background the same background, we are going to have the same background, and then we'll say overflow is hidden, width 100%, height 0, and then transition 5 seconds is. And now when you hover your mouse around the picture, you can see that now the text is flowing from the top.